Hey everybody, Kevin here from Market Wines. You'll notice I'm alone this week. Robin's taking some well-deserved summer holidays with the family, but that's okay. I'm really excited to be talking about a six-pack of wine that's pretty special to me. So we went through the portfolio of Jeff Carrel and picked out 6 wines that we thought were all really interesting, unique. The idea was try to maybe introduce you to some new grape varieties or some new regions that you might not know, and then hopefully tell the Jeff Carrel story a little more clearly for you, because I think some people don't really understand what Jeff does. I think a lot of people see this as kind of a big winery where he's making wines from all over the south of France, but that's actually not at all what he does. So Jeff's a pretty neat guy, and he works mostly in the Languedoc and Roussillon. You'll see a little bit in Beaujolais here too, but mostly what he does is down in the south of France in the Roussillon. So his idea is he really wants to take villages that are less known, kind of unsung places, and bring them into the light. So the way he does this is he goes and he finds different vineyards. So the projects always start with place, and that's the most important thing to him, is to find really unique vineyards that have something to say. And then a lot of these vineyards have been neglected for various reasons. Sometimes they're just too remote, so it's really hard for winemakers to get to them, or vigneron, it gets really expensive because they're so far up in the hills. People don't want to make the effort to keep these vineyards going. And a lot of times these vineyards are old. So when these vineyards get really old, they're not producing as much fruit as they are when they're younger, so it's really easy for people to walk away from them. So today, we're going to look at a couple of those. We're going to look at a couple wines from the Languedoc. We're going to talk a little bit about why we put this case together, and maybe give you a more clear idea of what Jeff Carrel does and why you should be picking up this 6-pack, because I think it's a really fun and unique way to taste wines. Okay, so we're starting with Villa des Anges. So I think this 2019 version is the 3rd time we've had this in. It's a really popular rosé, and for pretty good reason. Sells for just under 20 bucks, but you're getting a really good deal in this case today. So we've got the full case on, regular 144 on for 125. So really good value on those. I think that puts them around 15% off or just more. The rosé is 100% Old Vine Cinsault. Cinsault is a grape variety that most people probably haven't heard of. It's typically used in blending in Châteauneuf-du-Pape or Côte du Rhône, and Cinsault's role in a blend is aromatics more than anything. So it's really bright, pretty, has this like really fine kind of strawberry character to it, and it's a little bit floral. So while this wine is dry, it has this really like beautiful, big, aromatic kind of perfume nose, really jumps out of the glass. But then in the mouth, it's like really crisp and fresh and light and super summery. So it's no big mystery why this one is so popular. It's just really quaffable, delicious. It's got some real character to it, and it's something a little different because you don't just get to drink 100% Cinsault wines very often. In fact, I think that's the only rosé I've ever had that fits that description. So that's wine number 1. Wine number 2 is pretty fun. Totally unique wine. Everyone in the staff looked at me like I was crazy. Carignan Blanc, no one had ever heard of it, no one had ever seen it, and I love bringing in grape varieties that no one's ever seen before, no one's ever had before, because it's always a little bit of discovery. And for us as wine geeks, we like to taste new stuff and taste grape varieties we've never had. So the story with this is really kind of unique. Jeff found this vineyard of really old white Carignan, and it was sitting up, they call this line Sous la Montagne, or under the mountain. So this vineyard sits at a really high altitude, right under a mountain in the Pyrenees. So Roussillon is the part of France. It's also called the Catalan part of France, where you see France going into Spain and banking up against the Pyrenees, which is where the border is. Carignan Blanc is not really planted much anymore. When it's planted as a new vine, it can be pretty high yielding and not really interesting. But when you get into examples like this, you get some old vines, and because they're producing much less fruit, the fruit is much more concentrated and has a lot more character to it. So this Carignan Blanc was really fun to taste. It's kind of unlike anything I've had before. It's got this really nice beeswaxy aroma, and then kind of like a marmalade-y almost smell, like an orange marmalade and kind of lemon curd thing going on. It's not really lean. It's actually got some texture and some weight to it, and amazing wine if you're throwing some salmon on the barbecue, or you're doing even any like grilled fish or anything like that. This is really fun. So Great project, really unique grape variety, and maybe from an area you've never tasted wine before. So that's really well worth trying. Again, it's like it's around 25 on the shelf, but you're getting the big Dean off on that guy. Next, we have something a little different. This is from Beaujolais. So we're 100% Gamay here. A lot of people think of Gamay, they think really light, really like sort of bubblegummy wine. Not this one. 2018 was a pretty big year in Beaujolais. So the wines tend to have a little more tannin, a little more richness, a little more weight. And this has actually got some pretty good structure to it. I found with this guy, a little bit of time in the decanter made a big difference. I always like a little bit of chill on the Beaujolais, so I threw it in the fridge for about 25 minutes, then dropped it in the decanter, a little bit of air into it, and all that kind of spice and nuances come out if you give it a little bit more time. But I'd still put this on the table with maybe a little bit of food. So if you're thinking roast chicken and potatoes, one of my favorite Sunday dinners, and this guy right here would be absolutely spectacular. This one goes for $29.95, but again, you're getting the big discount on that guy. Next, we move into something really kind of fun and unique, Le Grenache dans le Pot. So you can see the label here, it looks like skin. Pot is skin. This is supposed to look like a tattoo. Jeff always likes to have a little bit of fun with the labels. This is from Moray in the south of France. So it's an area that's actually better known for sort of port-style wines, so wines that have a little bit of brandy added to them. But Moray typically is going to be a little bit on the sweet side, but not this guy. So this is drinking 100% Grenache. So with Grenache, you always got to remember it's a higher alcohol grape variety, so there's going to be some weight, some power, some richness to it. So I always like to put this in the fridge for like 5-10 minutes, just chill it down a little bit. You'll find with wines, especially Grenache, it's a pretty grape variety. It's got lots to say, lots to offer, but it's always going to be like a little boozier. Like if you flip your shot enough to pop around, it's usually 15.5 on the back. So you want to serve those wines a little bit cooler because it accentuates the fruit. It sort of pulls down the alcohol. But this is a really fun one for Grenache lovers because it really has that classic kind of haunting, perfumey Grenache aroma. And again, something you probably want to put on the table with a little bit of food. Next, we've got the Villa des Anges Reserve, which I have not had yet. So we'll pop this sucker open and try it. The regular cab is always one of our best-selling wines. Last year we got in the Reserve, had it for a very short period of time because it was so popular, and I think the 2017 is even better. What I like to do with this guy, it's mostly cab, so it's a Bordeaux blend, but primarily cab. So I like to sell it sort of to people who are looking more in the New World kind of Cabernet. This goes for about 24 bucks, 22 bucks. So again, you're paying 15% off that. This really to me comes across as like a riper, juicier style. Maybe you're used to French Cabernets being a little bit leaner, spicier, a little more subdued, but this guy, the idea is to get something fleshier, something like a little silkier and more textural and easy drinking. So you don't really need food with this one. This goes really well on its own. It's big, rich, ripe. It's got lots of that sort of jammy flavor to it. Definitely good patio wine, good barbecue wine. Just having a few people over on the deck, and you want to pour something that's not going to get kind of lost in the backyard because you're drinking it outside. That's a good way to go. I like that a lot. All right. Last but not least, later on, 2017. Everyone's been waiting for this one. This is kind of the most popular wine in the shop these days. The 16 flew out of here. 16 was a really good vintage in the Languedoc, but 17 is another one. I think I like this one even a little bit better. For me, there's a little more balance here. So it's got that old vine Grenache as the base, a little bit of Syrah, a little bit of Carignan, but this really tells the story of Grenache. So big, rich, ripe, really perfumed, really aromatic. There's no oak on it, so it's kind of a medium, like a mid-weight wine, not a big bomber, but has lots of like really fine texture to it. Pretty much everything you're looking for in like a backyard everyday wine. So with the Carrel 6-pack, 6 super unique, interesting wines, take you on a little bit of a journey through the Languedoc, the Roussillon, into Beaujolais, and give you some really interesting, fun new things to try. So it's only going to run you 125 bucks, and you can order those online anytime. So grab one this weekend. Should be a fun one to drink it with. Thanks very much.